is a global hub, fast-paced, diverse, and always moving. It's a city shaped by people, cultures, and ideas from everywhere. Over 1 week, we took part in the module American Culture, Business Leadership, and International Management. The experience included 3 days of lectures and 2 days of corporate visits across the city. Our week kicked off at Pace University, located in Lower Manhattan next to the financial district, just a stone's throw from the Brooklyn Bridge. We explored the campuses before being welcomed by members of the faculty team and diving into our first topic, understanding American business culture. The session was led by New York local Mayra Velasquez, who also taught several of the following topics during the week. What stood out most wasn't so much the subject matter, but the way it was delivered. Her style was energetic, direct, and often humorous, very much reflecting a New York approach that felt confident, engaging, and informal at the same time. Rather than introducing entirely new ideas, the session reframed familiar concepts like how culture influences behavior, decision-making, and leadership through an American business lens. One key takeaway was the emphasis on cultural awareness and adaptability as practical leadership skills, not just theory. Overall, it offered a clear insight into how business culture in the U.S. is communicated and lived. We also attended a talk by Professor Weinstock, which felt much more open and informal. Instead of a structured presentation, he spoke freely about current economic and political issues, touching on topics like tariffs, government shutdowns, and the risk of stagflation. He also shared his thoughts on how artificial intelligence could reshape the way we work in the coming years, stressing that AI is more likely to support human expertise than replace it entirely. Toward the end, 3 MBA students joined the conversation and shared their journeys, followed by a Q&A where we had the chance to ask questions. Overall, the format felt more conversational than lecture-based. Next, we shifted focus with a session led by Michael Esposito, who explored the differences between American and Swiss business practices, leadership styles, and workplace culture. What made this session particularly interesting was the clear contrast between the two mindsets, especially around risk-taking, decision-making, and leadership. Using frameworks such as Hofstede, he highlighted how Swiss business culture tends to value consensus, precision, and long-term planning, while American business culture is generally more individualistic and comfortable with fast decisions and failure as a learning process. The lecture also emphasized that American business culture is not uniform, with notable differences between regions such as the East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. Another session was led by Professor Eric H. Kessler and explored leadership through action, identity, and cultural context. Drawing on ideas from his published work on leadership and cultural mythology, he showed how leadership is shaped by the behaviors people repeat over time, rather than by formal roles or fixed traits. Using the metaphor of superheroes, he illustrated how leadership ideals, like strength, responsibility, and vision, are embedded in culture and influence how leaders are seen and how they act. This became tangible through an interactive exercise where we designed a superhero and defined the skills and behaviors that would make them effective. The session encouraged us to think of leadership as something practiced consistently, shaped by context and cultural narratives rather than abstract theory. After 3 days, we wrapped up our time at Pace with a goodbye from the same team that welcomed us, along with a small diploma ceremony for everyone who took part. With that, it was time to shift gears and head out into the city for our corporate visits. Our visit to UBS began with a brief guided tour of the corporate art collection by the in-house art expert, followed immediately by an engaging presentation from Dwayne Hughes, a member of the UBS Americas Advisory Council, whose talk stood out for its charismatic and engaging style. His approach felt distinctly American, confident and motivating, and left many of us feeling inspired. He shared insights from his own career journey and emphasized the importance of actively shaping one's own path. A key message was the idea of being clear and bold about what you want to achieve, including writing down goals and consciously working toward them. He also encouraged us to focus on the areas of life we can influence more than we often realize. One example he highlighted was health, which is frequently treated as a last priority, even though it should be a first. Overall, his talk combined practical advice with a strong motivational message. We also had the chance to take a guided tour on the High Line, an elevated park on Manhattan's west side. The High Line was originally built in the 1930s as a freight railway before it was later abandoned. Instead of being demolished, local residents pushed to transform it into a public space. What impressed us most is how the original tracks were preserved and combined with modern design and natural planting. Walking above the streets, surrounded by greenery, art, and views of the city, feels very different from a typical park. For us, the High Line is an example of how cities can creatively reuse old infrastructure. After seeing how something forgotten can be given new life, we were invited to experience another side of New York where tradition is still very much alive. That led us to M&S Schmalberg Flowers, a family-owned business that has been creating custom fabric flowers for generations. What stood out most is how little has changed. Almost everything is still made by hand, using techniques and tools that have been around since the beginning. Their flowers have appeared in fashion collections, films, and TV shows, and are often worn by celebrities like Cynthia Erivo at the Met Gala and on stage. What makes them special is how customizable they are, with each flower tailored in fabric, color, size, and shape. Our next stop was Brooklyn Made, a shop that showcases products created by locals. The space celebrates the borough's creativity and diversity, bringing together goods that reflect Brooklyn's craftsmanship. We were welcomed by Randy Piers, the president of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, who invited us to look around the store and explore the work of local designers and artists. While we were there, we met Leslie, one of the store associates and a Brooklyn local. In our interview, Leslie shared that she grew up in Marine Park and has lived in Brooklyn almost her entire life. Although she was born in Puerto Rico, she strongly identifies with Brooklyn and its community. She talked about how Brooklyn's diversity has changed over time and how you can see it everywhere, from food to music to everyday life. She also reflected on how Brooklyn has evolved in recent years, especially with rising rent and post-COVID shifts. Even with these changes, she said the strong sense of community, family, and tradition is still there. For Leslie, Brooklyn is a place where cultures don't just coexist, but blend together. Outside of classes and corporate visits, we also had time to experience the city itself. Riding the subway through Manhattan gave us a glimpse of everyday New York, passing iconic places like Grand Central Station, Central Park, and the World Trade Center, and really taking in the energy of the city along the way. One night, we experienced something completely different, an NBA game. Watching basketball live was more than just the game itself. From the cheerleading to the national anthem, it felt like a full American spectacle. It really showed us how important sports are in American culture, not just as competition, but as entertainment and a shared community experience. We also caught part of the Greenwich Village Halloween Parade, one of New York's most famous Halloween events. Beyond the parade, the whole city felt transformed, with costumes and decorations adding to the atmosphere everywhere we went. And of course, food was a big part of the experience, from several quick coffee stops to fast food on the go. One highlight was a Mexican lunch we shared during the week. After a full and unforgettable week, it was time to say goodbye to New York, taking with us the energy, diversity, and memories of a city that never really slows down.